This is your daily dose of all things royal. Oh, what a delight, my dear, gorgeous, good looking friends, to delve into Harry and Meghan's 2024, a year where they've not only flooded us with so much crap that we're practically wading through it, but they've also, for a third year in a row, managed to make themselves the most disliked celebrities of 2024, according to Ranker. Who remembers when Meghan promised at the end of 2023 what was to be expected in 2024?
What is the thing that is, driving the work that you're going to put out into the business?
Things that make people feel, I was going to say good, but it's more than that. Things that make people feel something, right?
Oh, Meghan, and feel we did. The stomach-churning revelation of Harry and Meghan's corruption laid bare. Over the past 5 years, they've turned every opportunity into a complete disaster. But what about 2024? It was the pinnacle of their corrupt, self-serving saga. With all the money, resources, and so-called ethical advisors at their fingertips, they've managed to make every project, every initiative, every supposed act of altruism into a testament of their personal gain and hypocrisy. Each venture, each public appearance, each empty promise has only served to underscore their corruption, making their third consecutive title as the most hated celebrities not just deserved, but expected. So get comfortable and ready for my scathing tour through the year that not only produced nothing from something, but also showcased their unparalleled talent for alienating the public. Here's to 2024, the year they confirmed that when it comes to turning goodwill into disdain, they're not just participants, they're the champions. Going back all the way to January of 2024, which seems so long ago, look who decided to crash the party in Jamaica. None other than our Meghan and Harry, turning the Bob Marley premiere into their own little political statement. Here's Meghan with her middle finger metaphorically raised at the king under the guise of celebrating cinematic art. The timing? Impeccable or desperate, depending on who you ask. Just when Jamaica's all about ditching the monarchy, here come the Sussexes soaking up the anti-royal sentiment like it's their new brand of relevance. Their attendance? It screams, we're relevant, we're rebellious, we're desperately trying to stay in the headlines is what it looked like. To summarize, coming off the back of a disastrous 2023, thirsty for attention? Check. Desperate for significance? Double check. And it was all seen here, kicking off the year. I'd like to say that the one saving grace in all this mess has been those priceless moments when Meghan, thinking she's the queen of the ball, parades in her VIP getup only to be demoted to general admission faster than you can say royal disaster. There she stands in all her supposed grandeur, looking like a fish out of water, proving, even with all the makeup and fancy clothes, you can still end up looking like a jackass in those cheap seats. It's the kind of humility check that's just too delicious not to savor. And it wasn't just Meghan who kicked off the year looking desperate and thirsty. Harry started the year by, remember this, being crowned a living legend of aviation. The self-proclaimed spare to the throne decided to add another feather to his cap of dubious achievements by accepting a Living Legend of Aviation award. Because nothing says a legendary pilot like, well, whatever it is Harry did that one time he was in a helicopter. And the funniest part of this gong show was Harry assuming the nickname of High Heels Harry because it is known that John Travolta is taller than Harry, and here Harry shows up being 2 inches taller than John Travolta, thus leading everybody to speculate that Harry had been wearing lifts, thus being given the name of High Heels Harry. As if this award wasn't cringe enough, let's not forget the way that Harry kicked off his acceptance speech by insulting John Travolta in saying this.
Thanks very much, Captain John. Don't go running away. I was 1 year old. I was 1 year old when you danced with my mum. As you told everybody here, and continue to dine out on that probably every single night. But look at us now. It's great. So if we're not going to dance together, we'll fly together. That's it. Thank you. We're done.
And I think it was that moment that people realized that the ceremony for Harry was less about celebrating true aviation heroes and more about Harry's ego getting a much needed stroke. Rumor has it the award came with a hefty price tag, suggesting that perhaps the only thing flying high there was the invoice for the event. And what we saw as the months went on, this incessant need to steal the spotlight, even in the midst of tragedy. Like, take, for example, rolling into February, Buckingham Palace on February 5th announces the king has been diagnosed with cancer. And look who decided to turn the king's cancer into their own personal soap opera. Harry and Meghan famously are known to think that every tragedy is just the backdrop for their own drama. Here, Harry, with all the sensitivity of a jackhammer, rushes back to the UK, making sure every camera catches his concerned grimace and step towards Clarence House. Whether this was an act of compassion or Harry's attempt to make sure that he was not left out of the will, the real masterpiece here of narcissism for Harry was after squeezing every ounce of sympathy and portraying for the camera that he cares, he dashes off to Vegas to play celebrity at the NFL honors. Because, of course, when your dad's battling cancer, the best thing to do is make it all about your ego in Las Vegas. Penny for your thoughts, Harry. Is this a look of a man who realizes that maybe he should have stayed in the UK and been genuine about his visit to go and see his father and potentially help in any way that he can? Or is this the face of a man who is bitter that his father didn't give him more than 15 minutes when he made it all the way across the pond just to see him? Is he pissed off that his father didn't just drop everything for him? We'll never know, but from the outside, the optics didn't look good at the time. And if there's one thing that we know for certain about Harry and Meghan is whenever there is bad optics or bad press, Harry and Meghan's PR team always counters it with stuff to deflect away from it. And this time around, to deflect from Harry being so insensitive, was the stupid announcement of Harry and Meghan revamping their website to become Sussex.com, of which Archwell.org now would replace Archwell.com, in showcasing the Fugazi Public Charities work, as well as Sussex.com being the office of Prince Harry and Meghan, leading some to speculate that the royal family is distancing themselves more, especially after Prince Harry's stunt flying over to the UK. Little did we know that this was foreshadowing of what was to come from the changes that were going to be made on the royal family's website. Now, I believe that Harry and Meghan knew that these changes were coming to the royal family website, and that's why they got this Sussex.com all together and up and running a month before it had been announced that Harry and Meghan's bios had been changed, and now there's a redirect link to Sussex.com. I believe that they had to have known in order to make those changes, and that's why we saw the events go down the way that they did. But continuing on, since we're still in the month of February, after Harry and Meghan announced their Sussex.com as breaking news, we then see them now in Whistler, in which we are saturated with media of Harry and Meghan spotted hand in hand, showing their love in a way that screamed, "Hey, we're private," but with all the cameras around them, not really that private. Harry and Meghan appeared to look like they were mingling with the indigenous communities, which would have been sweet if it didn't feel like they were collecting cultural experiences to populate their new website. February also marked off the first booing that Meghan and Harry got in Whistler. Now, by the end of February, Meghan and Harry had managed to turn this month into a masterclass of how to stay relevant without actually doing very much, from taking photos in Whistler, Canada, to a rush visit to the UK under the guise of familial concern, followed by a quick dash to Vegas. They've shown us that the art of public relations, every move is calculated, every appearance is staged, and every moment of privacy is just waiting for the right moment to be publicized. In summary, February 2024 was another chapter in the ongoing saga of the Sussexes, where even the quietest moments were loud with intention, and the loudest actions were whispers of self-interest. Now, before any of us could catch our breath and take a break from all the media that was saturating the news outlets from Harry and Meghan in February, we begin now in March, where Meghan now is saturating the media airwaves with the announcement of her being a speaker on a panel with Katie Couric and Brooke Shields at the South by Southwest Festival. Now, when the month of March kicked off, I do remember thinking that Meghan and Harry were trying to capitalize on the king's absence as well as Catherine's absence by trying to keep themselves relevant. And what we saw was this onslaught of PR and all these things that they were doing to appear royal, as if they were still part of the royal family, showing the world that they could do the royaling a lot better than the real royals. But in any case, now, Meghan Markle, being the grade A asshole that she is, took the time at South by Southwest to gaslight the public in her lecture about online bullying. What was astonishing about this speech was the very same things that she had been talking about are the things that behind the scenes is what she has her little minions and paid supporters do to not only her sister-in-law, but to other females that she doesn't like, whether it be from criticism or just being spiteful and nasty. This is Meghan.
And at the same time, it's a platform that has quite a bit of hate and rhetoric and incentivizes people to create pages where they can churn out very, very inciting comments and conspiracy theories that can have a tremendously negative effect on someone's mental health.
Now, I'd like to remind everybody that a week and a half prior to Meghan getting up on that stage and acting all high and mighty, the Sussex squad had been abusing Catherine. Even though she had been absent, they had been spreading all kinds of horrific rumors around about her and William, especially with the death of Lady Gabriella's husband. But in any case, after Meghan gets up and gaslights the public, about 3 days later, they're at it again with abusing Catherine and the photo that had been clearly photoshopped, of which we all know was scrutinized from California. I think we can all safely agree that there is a high probability that it was Meghan Markle who is responsible for the Where's Kate campaign and how that escalated. To drive Catherine then to have to sit down and explain to the world and justify why she has been absent. It was this bitch who drove her to do that. And Meghan wonders why people don't like her. Well, people don't like satanic witches, and that's what she is. And just when you thought you couldn't dislike this couple anymore, the moment Catherine's cancer diagnosis hit the news, Meghan and Harry, in true form, found a way to make it about their own narrative. While the world was sending well wishes, the Sussex squad, with Christopher Boozy as their ringleader, had already muddied the waters with the Where's Kate and Photoshop drama. But did Meghan and Harry step up to quell the chaos? Of course not. They probably sat back enjoying the spectacle with a side of "we told you so" smirks on their faces. Their silence was not golden. It was self-serving. A quiet nod to their army of trolls to keep the fires burning, of course. And when it comes to Catherine's health, their response was less about empathy and more about how they could spin this into another chapter of their victimhood story. When you look back at the actions they took, it's so gross to see how self-absorbed and manipulative their reaction was to this serious health crisis, all to self-serve themselves. There's no doubt in my mind that Meghan most likely was pissed off at Catherine for overshadowing her American Riviera Orchard announcement of her lifestyle garbage that she was planning on pushing to the public, which, by the way, another failure in 2024. Now, moving into April, who could forget this stupid, stinky jam that Meghan was trying to get others to sell for her? Sending 50 jars and didn't even get to 50 jars. I mean, she really sent out 10 jars of jam that looked kind of gross. I mean, you just couldn't make this up, but slow to get out there. And the photos that were taken with these wilted lemons And with the labels falling off, I mean, this was the most amateur thing I've ever seen. And, I almost wonder if this whole Arrow scam jam was about making fun of how the media would take it and actually pretend that this was a serious product that Meghan was launching, because nobody in their right mind would see this as a serious business venture. Nobody. Unless there's something else that's going on that I bet is dodgy and shady, like everything else about these two. Now, with all the BS noise that Meghan was created from this American Riviera nothing, just to keep everybody in check, all this PR, mind you, we're still in April. And of course, Meghan and Harry continue on their harassment of the public and the media by deciding to grace us with their presence now in the polo world, filming for that Netflix flop series that came out in December. Because clearly, what's more relatable than watching Harry swing a mallet? But the real showstopper of this whole entire PR stunt was Meghan, in a desperate bid for some wholesome PR, deciding to use Nacho's daughter as a personal prop, since her own kids were conveniently absent. There Meghan was with her rictus grin and the creepy hugs, trying to sell the public on an image of her being some kind of doting maternal figure. But all we saw was someone looking rather silly and stupid without her own children to parade around. It's like Meghan thought, if I do this photo op with Nacho's daughter, then it will convince people that I truly am a mother and people can see that I am a mom. If there was ever a moment that screams desperate for attention, it's certainly when Meghan clutches on to someone else's child for a photo op, while her own remain at home, probably locked up in an attic. Many of us soon found out that the reason why we were flooded with this garbage was to distract us away from Harry losing his court case. At the same time, Prince Harry suffers a blow in losing his first appeal bid and challenge over his UK police protection. Between all that noise, we then get the announcement that Harry and Meghan are going to Nigeria, right after Harry finishes up with London. So we wrap April with Meghan and Harry managing to keep the world talking about them without actually doing very much. They teased, they hinted, they engaged in legal battles, but the only real product was Meghan's stinky jam, which might as well be symbolic of their career. Sweet, but not particularly substantial at all. And now we're off into May, where Harry heads over to London for the Invictus 10-year anniversary. At the time, we all thought that Meghan was going to meet up with Harry in Nigeria, but this little coward decided to fly over to London with Harry and hang out in the lounge at the airport, waiting for him to be done with all his Invictus stuff. But off they went. The Sussexes decided to grace Nigeria with their presence for what was less of a royal tour and more like a celebrity parade. They were there to promote mental health and celebrate the Invictus Games, but let's call it what it was, a desperate bid to stay relevant and appear royal. For the most part, it did appear that Harry felt like he was in his element, or at least trying to be, with the Invictus Games. He spoke with such passion about the games, you'd almost forget he was also there to manage his and Meghan's image. However, let's not forget the real moment of irony came when he had to stand for God Save the King, the British national anthem, in a country Harry and Meghan are no longer officially representing. Now, for the normal person, it would be a little awkward, but for Harry and Meghan, zero shame. As you can see on Meghan's face, she's living in the moment, thinking that she's still a part of this British institution. When you look back at this Nigerian cultural misadventure that Harry and Meghan went on, you can't help but cringe, especially when it came to Meghan. Like, take, for example, Meghan talking about her Nigerian roots and that speech she gave in front of all those women. When Meghan decided to talk to Nigerian women about her connection to Nigeria, she demonstrated that she didn't have a single clue about Nigerian culture. She was all about empowerment, but seemed to miss the irony of discussing cultural identity with only a DNA's test worth of knowledge. Meghan had no business wasting the time of those women in that room, especially for her nonsense. The way that Meghan went about this whole Nigerian roots thing was kind of like her giving a lecture on quantum physics after reading the back of a cereal box. Seriously, that's what it felt like to me. that she was doing here with her Nigerian roots. I don't buy it for 1 second. I don't even believe that this woman is even black, in my opinion. Overall, this trip was filled with so much clownery and dodginess that, I don't know how these people in Nigeria took Meghan and Harry seriously. Now, this part was the most ridiculous.
I'm very, very grateful. I'm very humbled. And today's Mother's Day. So it feels appropriate that though, of course, we are missing our children, I'm missing my babies, it feels very appropriate to be on the motherland.
You know that Meghan will never go back to Nigeria. And on top of it, they gave her this title. And what does she do with it? Nothing. She still wants to be called the Duchess of Sussex. I can't believe how Nigeria rolled out the red carpet for this con artist. It's unreal to me how this woman has been able to get away with such fraud. Overall, looking at this Nigerian trip, not only was it filled with cultural gaffes and awkward anthem moments, but also filled with questionable company and wasting taxpayer money. The best part about it is on their way back, Nigeria's First Lady, how could we forget this classic moment where she pointed out what she saw as nakedness, highlighting a cultural disconnect? The moment was less about the clothes and more about a lesson in cultural humility, of which Meghan was very upset about. And we know how she handled that and made the First Lady of Nigeria retract her statement, but in any case, it was said and we know that it was directed towards her. Even though for normal people, this trip would have been a lesson in humility, but for Harry and Meghan, it's just another day where they managed to turn a potentially positive visit into a showcase of cultural insensitivity, irony, and poor judgment. But of course, they refused to acknowledge this waste of time and failure and considered that this trip was a success with many more to come. All that cash wasted on PR and press, and what do Meghan and Harry get? A big fat nothing burger. The moment Harry and Meghan touched down from their Nigerian escapade, the news about Archwell being suspended for not renewing the registration and paying the damn fee hit the headlines. So, poof, all that carefully curated image went up in smoke. Archwell was suspended to even take a penny in donations or legally operate. Isn't it quite peculiar Gavin Newsom stepped in to save the day? Almost as if he knew Archwell needed to be in operation to ensure Harry and Meghan's Nigerian grift could be pulled off in regards to funding.
Unbelievable amount of attention that has been placed on the Archwell Foundation. I'm here at a behavioral health site, a mental health site. Archwell Foundation, run by Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, do extraordinary work, particularly women and girls, but notably around mental health. And I just want folks to know, not only are they in compliance, it was a technical paperwork issue that was wildly hyped. And with respect, I hope people that ran those headlines run this headline, that it was a very typical technical issue around paperwork that persists for so many others as well. And they're in full compliance. And they're a celebrated organization that does great work in the state of California. So I wanted to clarify that because that's important. And I just thought there was a little bit of a piling on that was deeply unfair.
Considering the fact that Gavin Newsom had wasted billions of taxpayer dollars, you almost have to wonder what was in it for Gavin Newsom to stick his neck out and defend these two losers. Pretty suspect, I would say. All that faking it, playing the lovebirds, oozing with faux compassion, straight down the toilet. Between hobnobbing with sketchy characters, the Archwell fiasco, and the First Lady calling out Meghan for flashing more skin than a strip club, their whole Nigerian vacation on the taxpayer dime was a bust. Suddenly, Harry and Meghan's drama now has become yesterday's news and May ends with everyone's eyes being glued on Trooping the Colour, eagerly waiting for Catherine, Princess of Wales, to grace the stage again. And boy, did she not disappoint. What a moment for the world when she stepped out, looking stunning as always. Even though Catherine was not 100%, there was a huge sigh of relief that she was getting better. And the world was so happy to see her. And how stupid was Meghan to think that she was going to be able to take the spotlight off of Catherine when, of course, we knew that she was going to pull some kind of PR stunt, in which she did, by having Nacho go ahead and time his post on Instagram stories right before Princess Catherine's courageous return to the public eye post-cancer treatment with this garbage post of dog biscuits, jam, and Nacho's dog, giving some type of cryptic message that was an insult to Catherine. This wasn't just a lack of taste, it was a full-on assault on decency, using Catherine's moment of strength to push some childish message through jam and dog biscuits. It was as if the message was saying, forget about human resilience, let's focus on me, Meghan, and my latest vanity project. This wasn't about celebrating new products, it was a bitchy move, turning a moment of true nobility into a petty PR stunt, which clearly failed. And that was the point when Nacho got markled, because the backlash was fierce. And once again, coming off of the backlash, bouncing into July, we now see more PR being pushed out with Meghan's trip to the Hamptons for the G9 Ventures Summer Summit. I mean, who could forget this chick showing up wearing this crumpled, wrinkled laundry bag? This doesn't scream, hey, give me your money and invest in my company, but instead it says, no, I'm here to clout chase, get my photo taken, and for the free drinks. Because really, that's all Meghan is good for. What exactly came out of this summit? Absolutely nothing. And it was about July where 2024 takes a complete nosedive for Harry and Meghan, with Prince Harry, in a display of unparalleled chic. His PR decided to secure him the Pat Tillman Award as a desperate attempt to divert attention from the court case where he was lambasted for losing and destroying evidence. As if that wasn't audacious enough, a Change.org petition, backed by over 75,000 signatures, was launched to call out this travesty after Pat Tillman's mother had called Harry controversial and divisive and was shocked that he was being named for this award. But having respect for Pat Tillman's mom's opinion stop him? Of course not. In true form, Harry and Meghan showed up as if they owned the place, and Harry went up on stage to accept this award, but not before ensuring the stage still remained the veterans that spoke so highly of him. Was it because Harry wanted to share the spotlight? Oh no, this move was so transparently self-serving it was almost comical. It was like he was saying, don't boo me, look at these heroes, and I'm going to use them as human shields so I don't get booed by you, because I know that I shouldn't have accepted this award. In any case, this wasn't about celebrating service. It was about Harry trying to buy back some respect with an award meant for those who truly live by Tillman's values, all the while hiding behind the very people he claimed to honor. If there was ever a more biting, bitchy move in the name of PR, it was Harry using this award and these veterans to polish his tarnished image. I don't think it worked. In fact, it didn't help one bit. It's these moments that we have to remember. Granted, they give us so many moments, but it's these that make us remember how arrogant this man is when he showed zero humility or respect for Pat Tillman's mother, which I think was shameful and disgraceful. It's also a reminder that these two have this sense of entitlement that they can do whatever they want, and the little people, such as us, don't matter. So all of this fluff to boost your ego really is just self-serving. It has nothing to do with being genuine and of honor. And the little man-child totalitarian dictator that Harry is going to continue to keep doing whatever he wants. This is why he has no problem trampling all over our constitutional rights, because he feels he's entitled to do so. His arrogance and ego, as well as Meghan combined together, makes for a very dangerous combination unless someone in authority stops them. And this is why we always have to talk about how low these two will go in order to self-serve themselves. And by this point in July, Harkle fatigue was a real thing. I am pretty sure this sadistic couple understands that, and that's why they continued on with saturating the media with their faces. After this Tillman debacle, then came this ITV documentary that Harry was in, focusing on his security and campaign against the British press.
I know that it is clear now to everybody that the risk of taking on the press and the risk of such retaliation from them by taking these claims forward, it's clearly not in my interest to do that. Look at what has happened in the last 4 years to me, my wife and my family, right? So that was a very hard decision for me to make, which is how bad is it going to get?
Some people would say that you taking on these high profile battles, but that actually attracts more attention onto you.
There is more than enough attention on me and my wife anyway. They pushed me too far. It got to a point where you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I don't think there's anybody else in the world that is better suited and placed to be able to see this through than myself. It's still dangerous, and all it takes is one lone actor, one person who reads this stuff to act on what they have read, and whether it's a knife or acid, whatever it is, and these are things that are a genuine concern for me. It's one of the reasons why I won't bring my wife back to this country.
Less than 5 days later, after Harry gets done saying this, 3 beautiful little girls were murdered by an Islamist terrorist. There's a very good chance that Harry will be using this murder for his own use in getting his security back. Now, rolling into August on this sick psychopath's birthday, because apparently nothing says happy birthday like launching a new project to keep the spotlight firmly on themselves, Harry and Meghan unveiled their so-called Parents Fugazi network. But wait, the real treat? They decide to coincide this with a CBS special hosted by Jane Pauley, where Meghan, in true form, dusted off her well-worn, I almost unalived myself narrative, not for empathy this time, but to push her agenda on online censorship. And if it wasn't enough, they roped in what looks suspiciously like crisis actors to beef up their story. It was like they thought, what better way to celebrate my birthday than by manipulating public sentiment and using my personal struggles to silence critics? This wasn't about mental health or parenting. It was a thinly veiled attempt to control the narrative using Meghan's birthday and her story as bait for their latest PR stunt. If there was ever a more bitchy, self-serving move, it was this exploiting personal tragedy and employing questionable tactics to peddle their campaign, all under the guise of child safety. Little did we know at that time that this was setting the stage for Harry and Meghan's Colombia trip happening later that month. In a move that could only be seen as the epitome of sanctimonious hypocrisy, jetted off to Colombia not to promote freedom or democracy, but to push their agenda of online censorship under the guise of protecting children and mental health. Harry and Meghan shamelessly paraded other people's kids around using them as props in their campaign to control the digital world, all while conveniently forgetting their parents themselves. And how did they fund this little venture into anti-democracy? With U.S. taxpayer money, no less. Turning what should have been about aid into a platform for their communist-leaning, freedom-stifling antics. It's like they thought, why not exploit Colombia's generosity and these children for our cause? This wasn't about advocacy. It was exploitation at its finest, using vulnerable kids and foreign aid to push a narrative that screams control, totalitarianism, and communist dictatorship. And of course, all this work that Harry and Meghan are doing is towards fulfilling the Agenda 2030 and this utopia of a one-world government where the elite class will be the ruling class and telling you how you should live, while we have to sit back and take it. This is why all of this kindness and compassion falls flat, because we see through the bullshit, because we know what their agenda is. By the end of this Colombian trip, the facade had crumbled. Harry and Meghan's last public appearance together was like watching the final episode of a show that ran out of plot. Meghan was still trying, thinking that she could turn this ship around, but Harry's fake smiles had turned into grimaces. The once vibrant love and doting husband was now as lifeless as a corpse at a wake. People online were saying how the trip was a PR disaster, with Harry looking like he couldn't fake it anymore. It was definitely clear to everyone that this relationship may not go the distance, and Harry was ready to hightail it out of there. And everything now that we have been seeing that comes out of Harry and Meghan allegedly being together has been either Photoshop or AI generated. And speaking of the manipulation of images and the application of AI, one of the most significant revelations this year by the Royal Grift regarding this duo was the uncovering and exposure of the extent to which Meghan's childhood photos and videos have been altered. Not only were they photoshopped, but sophisticated deepfake AI video technology was employed to construct a deceptive narrative about Meghan's early life and history. This manipulation has drawn the Markle family now into the spotlight as their past interviews and shared narratives are now under scrutiny. The inconsistencies and contradictions that have emerged reveal a tapestry of stories that no longer hold together, prompting a reevaluation of the authenticity of their collective past. And I think many of you are starting to recognize that Harry and Meghan have been using this kind of technology all along. And in September, we start seeing a lot of this weirdness of Harry being awkwardly placed in these photos, particularly around his 40th birthday when it had been announced that Harry was spending the weekend with his friends, but pops up with Meghan at Tyler Perry's birthday party, and then also at this tennis match, which both of them appear to have been clearly photoshopped. Soon after the Columbia trip, growing whispers of Harry and Meghan not getting along had been getting louder. And in September, Harry and Meghan, in what can only be described as a last-ditch effort to hang on to this facade of a marriage and stay relevant, decided to quote-unquote professionally separate, whatever that means. Because apparently their joint melodrama completely has run its course. Harry, in a pathetic attempt to claw back some type of individuality, dashed off to New York and London, as well as Africa, in another rebranding attempt to rehabilitate his image into this global statesman. So in New York, Harry was slotted to speak at the Clinton Global Initiative, as well as Concordia. He also attended a dinner with Dr. Tedros from the World Health Organization on something to do with honoring survivors of child violence. Like Harry really gives a shit. Harry has done nothing to stop the abuse with African parks on the Baka people, so why would he care about these children? But let's cut to the chase. The public is so damn tired of these celebrities as well as these globalists who have this constant need to protect their image and silence and suppress voices. It seriously has become a collective eye roll. There's this cynical suspicion that Harry and Meghan are just a well-funded distraction, part of some grand media manipulation tactic to keep us all from focusing on the real pressing issues of our time. I think a big part of it is this network of pedophiles in this elite class that includes politicians, celebrities. I mean, we see what's going on with Diddy and, how sensitive that sleazy client list is. I do think that their circus of nonsense is well funded to stir up chaos and distraction to keep us looking over here as opposed to looking over there and not paying attention. And what started to unfold this year here in the United States is more around how the US government had been colluding with the social media companies in order to censor Americans and suppress information that they didn't want to get out to influence. And in this case, when we look at the situation of what happened to us in the Megxit community and the people that Harry and Meghan had been aligned with, it shows that clearly this is more than just Harry and Meghan fleeing for their lives from the UK over to the United States. There was a clear agenda and mission that Harry keeps talking about while he was over here. I'll take this to the grave with me. But Harry came over to the United States to interfere with our 2020 election to ensure that Donald Trump did not get back into office. Just because we all perceive Harry to be stupid doesn't mean that we could be stupid ourselves and not think that there is some weight in him having relationships and involvement with NATO, the United Nations, the World Health Organization, the UK government. Then on the US side, having tight, close alignment with the Biden crime family, the Obamas, even Bill and Hillary Clinton. You don't get asked to speak at the Clinton Global Initiative if, You're not part of this club, believe me. Harry is on board with this evil agenda that's going on, and perhaps maybe he is just a patsy and being used as a pawn to distract people away from the bigger picture, which is this child global trafficking, of which all these elites and people that Harry is connected to are a part of. And of course, the other reason why these bitch-ass globalists didn't want Donald Trump back into office was because of money. They didn't like the fact that they were not going to be able to steal from the American people anymore. And that's what has been happening the past 4 years, where the middle class have been funding not only the wars, but the censorship, the NGOs, the migration, pretty much the demise and destruction of our own country coming out of our own pockets and into the pockets of people like Harry and Meghan. Anybody think it's a coincidence that now, all of a sudden, the relationship between Harry and Meghan seems to be practically over? Look at the time frame of how everything aligned with Harry and Meghan meeting each other, dating, getting married, then coming over here for the election, working quietly behind the scenes, trying to meddle with our government. Now, as October rolled around, Meghan and Harry decided to lay low on the U.S. politics this go around. Meghan, who had previously been vocal about Kamala Harris, suddenly went mute on the endorsement front. It was like she had been advised not to voice her support because it would be the nail in Kamala's political coffin if she did. We all know that anything that Meghan touches turns to shit. Surprisingly, throughout the whole entire year, Harry managed to be in our faces almost daily, but for the month of October, he was practically invisible. Now, some people think that the reason why Harry was laying low was because of the visa situation and the upcoming election. I would have to agree with that. Others had whispered that Harry might have gone into rehab. Nobody really knows, but definitely Harry was staying out of the spotlight for a bit, especially since the whole Diddy scandal had been erupting. But Meghan, on the other hand, no, she had to remain visible and go walk a carpet for the Children's Hospital of LA, of which she looked like a total hot mess, which we saw in this god-awful, ugly red dress again. Now, even though Harry and Meghan gave us somewhat of a break during the month of October by laying low, they still managed to be in our faces on a weekly basis across all the various tabloids up until after the election. Seen here. Now, November was a complete disaster for Meghan and Harry, with the election results not only jeopardizing their Archwell Fugazi public charity censorship and anti-democratic initiatives, but also spotlighting the crumbling state of Harry and Meghan's marriage and the ongoing mystery surrounding their invisible children. Soon after Donald Trump wins, Harry and Meghan are back in our faces again with this AI-generated video of themselves that so many people still think is real, talking to us about how to keep kids safe online with the underlying tone of pushing for online censorship. Now, I just want to stress that just because Donald Trump won doesn't mean that people like Harry and Meghan are going to stop trying to undermine and take away our rights. In fact, this is going to fuel them even more to figure out a way to subvert the Constitution in order to achieve ultimately this control that they are seeking. So you can bet that Harry and Meghan are not giving up on this initiative anytime soon, unless somebody from the government steps in and tells them to cut this shit out. At this point, if you were like me in December, many of us have tuned out. Every time we saw Harry and Meghan's name, don't really care anymore. It's almost as if this election changed and shifted the energy of things going to be better, and that these kind of people are no longer going to be the ones who are in control. Harry and Meghan are so out of touch with regular people that it's no surprise that their Netflix 5 episodes Polo series flopped. It's a positive sign that people are not idolizing these celebrities anymore. I get that we can all feel like we can relax, but no, I still think that Harry and Meghan need to be watched, not in the degree that we've been watching them, because we know that they are now officially frauds, but to a degree next year when they start talking about the collusion with the government and the censorship industrial complex. Now we end the year with Harry and Meghan both on separate coasts. Harry in New York at New York Times Dealbook, and then we have Meghan in LA and Hollywood honoring Tyler Perry. Since then, nobody is able to confirm that Harry and Meghan got together for the holidays or were even celebrating together. Instead, we get a very bizarre holiday greeting card of Harry and Meghan posing with other children and a Photoshop photo of their own. As 2024 closes, Harry and Meghan have been left with nothing but a tarnished image, a slew of failed projects, and the looming dread of an uncertain 2025. If there was ever a year to showcase how out of touch, desperate, and ultimately inconsequential they've become, it was this one. Harry and Meghan's 2024, as well as the past 5 years, have been a masterclass in how to squander potential, turn goodwill into ridicule, and end up as a cautionary tale of what happens when you prioritize publicity over substance. Where do Harry and Meghan go in 2025? My prediction for 2025? I wish I could say that Harry and Meghan would just go away and lay low for a little bit and give the public a break. But if history tells us anything, just like in 2021 and 2022 and 2023, and also in 2024 now, they're going to continue to keep hazing the public with the barrage and saturation of their face on a daily basis. It will be for Harry's court cases, as well as dangling the carrot about Meghan and Netflix and her BS cooking show that probably will never materialize. But we also have now the issue of their marriage and these invisible kids that will now play into the controlled narrative storyline, of which somehow I do believe we're going to get some type of answer, but not the answer that we're all looking for. And I do believe that we're not going to be told the truth. In fact, I don't think we'll ever get the truth about these children. We still have a couple of wild cards on the table, like Harry's visa. We have the Diddy case, as well as the censorship industrial complex being investigated under the Trump administration, in addition to the Missouri versus Biden lawsuit that is still moving forward. So there's a lot that's going to go down in 2025. We just have to figure out how not to be distracted by the noise that Harry and Meghan are going to throw at us. But what do you guys think? And don't tell me in the comment section that you can't do anymore, because I know you can. I do believe that in 2025, we are going to see the justice that everybody deserves as a result of the harm that these two have caused to so many people. I have this feeling that 2025 is going to be a good year. But I just want to say to all those that have been following me and sticking with me throughout this journey, thank you so much. I wish nothing but health, love, and happiness in the new year. I do have this feeling that things are going to be all right. And this ride is going to be a good time. And on that note, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Such a fraud.